Hi friends, I'm so happy that you're here back with me creating in this play along journal series. This is the series where I am working through 2 different handmade art journals from beginning to end, taking you along for every step of the way so that you can see what my thought process is as I create in one of these handmade art journals. You can see the different techniques that I use, but more importantly, you can see how I try to get my mindset in a place where I can just let loose and play a little bit. So I'm starting out on this spread, and it's a pretty blank spread, especially for in a handmade art journal. There's no text or anything on the pages. And so I started with a little bit of loose scribbling with my pencil, holding that at a really loose grip so that the pencil kind of does what it wants and I kind of just guide it as it goes. I used my catalyst tool to spread out some of my favorite color there, that green gold, that chartreusey color, and just wanting to get a little bit of layering going and a little bit in the background. And after I dried that, I came in with just using my fingerprint as a mark making tool with another one of my favorites. It's the nickel azo yellow from Golden Acrylics. As always, if you're wondering what supplies that I'm using, I try my best to link those down in the description below. If you have any more questions about the supplies I use or how I use something, please comment and I will get back to you. While you're at it, make sure that you are subscribed to my channel so that you're notified when I'm posting new videos and that you can stay along and keep up with the process with me. I'm using one of my new chartreuse stickers here, and those are actually available in my shop. I am so excited about the new chartreuse papers and stickers that I uploaded to my shop recently. I think that the color on them turned out so beautifully. Of course, it is my favorite color. I'm pretty partial to it, and so I was happy that the printer turned out printing the print as good as it is, I think, on the original. So that doesn't always happen. Sometimes your printer kind of changes the colors on you. So I used that sticker on the right side of the page and just trimmed it flush with the edges. A lot of times when I use circle stickers or circles in general, I don't want to put the entire shape onto the page. I want to have part of it kind of going off of the sides, or if I don't put it off of the sides, I may put it on, but then I may layer a few different collage pieces on top of it or some washi tape, something like that. As you can see, I'm drawing a little botanical, just something simple on the left side. Realistic drawing is not something that I feel comfortable in at all, but I am trying to push myself in a little bit of way, especially when it comes to botanical plant drawings, because I just love using them in my work and I love seeing it in other people's work. So it may not be super realistic, but none of my style is. I'm an abstract mixed media artist, so I'm okay that it's not the most realistic drawing of a plant ever. That's not what I'm going for. And so I think the more that I practice, the more comfortable that I get, and the more comfortable I am drawing directly on the page like that. I mean, it's a little nerve-wracking because you don't want to mess up. So if you are kind of in that place, which there's still days that I am, I will actually draw it on another piece of paper and kind of fussy cut it out. And that's perfect too, because you can actually stockpile up and have those on hand to pull out of your stash and use later. So I drew that with regular pencil, if I remember first, and then I came back with Stabilo pencil, which was really my goal in the end, because I could come back after with a slightly wet paintbrush and grunge up that drawing. And for me, it makes it feel more organic, that grunginess. Like, it just fits my style a little bit better. But if you have more of a pristine style where you like crisper and cleaner lines, feel free to experiment with different writing utensils of what works best for you. Maybe you want to just use like a marker or just a bold pen. So experiment with different things. A lot of times I like the forgiveness that the Stabilo gives me, because I can come back in with that wet paintbrush and kind of switch things around. I'm continuing now to add layers. I added some little stencil marks with some white gesso, and I also use that Stabilo all pencil around the sticker. And so I don't want ever my stickers to look like something that you just kind of plop on the page. So a good way for me, I like to kind of blur and uh those edges. I kind of want them to go into the background a little bit, that ebb and flow. And so I kind of did that Stabilo around the outside and did some messy marks as I went along, and then added the water. I found a quote in my stash that I wanted to use on this page. I could leave this page just as it is right here, but I think I want to take it to just another step. And so I ripped around that quote, and I tried to do so carefully so that you could still see all of the words, but it gives a just a more grungy approach to it. I'm taking a little piece of one of my snippet rolls, and I want that to kind of be a base behind the quote. I think it's going to help that quote stand out from the page, literally, because it has some a little bit of texture bulk to it with that snippet roll, the fabric snippet roll, but also it just helps it to stand out from the background. You know, a lot of times we put something down and it can kind of get lost in the background, and it's not quite the look that we're going for, and that's okay. I'd like to just experiment with different ways of how we could really get what we want our focal point to pop. So whether we're putting on a quote like this that was from another piece of paper, or we're writing it directly on the page, what can we do to make that stand out a little bit? So along with that snippet roll, I pulled my little thread scrap jar there. Any threads that I use when I'm working that would normally just be thrown in the trash, I always save in a little jar on my desk. I a lot of times make thread bead baubles from those. But another fun way I've been trying to use them in my work is actually in my art journal spreads themselves. It can be kind of a really fun and easy way to add texture in. Looks like I'm adding a little bit more collage on that left side, which totally covered the botanical. As I'm watching back, I kind of forgot that I did that. I do like the botanical now that I see it here today watching it back, but there must have been something on that day where I just wasn't quite jiving with it. And that's a kind of an important lesson to start learning too, is we can be happy with something as it is, but what if we add something else? I mean, you don't want to always keep adding. Sometimes you throw too much at it and everything is just busyness. But it's okay if you try something and it didn't quite work how you wanted it to the first time. How can we take it from there and adapt? I think it's easy if something doesn't go quite as planned for us to kind of go into a state of paralysis where it's like, well, that didn't work. What do I do now? So if we can kind of just keep trying different things and seeing what can we do to make it fall into a place that we're happy with. I'm using some heavy glue here to put that quote onto the fabric and getting ready to add that little cluster now that I've created onto the page. I am going to add a few little staples there just for a little bit of reassurance. Sometimes when you're working with paper and fabric, you kind of have to get creative in your attaching methods. It looks like my first stapler ran out of staples and switched to another one. Now I'm going to glue on those thread clusters and just get this little assemblage here ready to attach to my paper. If you're loving the colors that I'm using today, make sure to go check out, I'll actually link it down below. It's a freebie that I just released, and it's in these chartreuse colors of different tags that you can cut out and use in your own work. And if you go over to my Instagram, maybe I'll try to link that reel down below. Also, you can see how I use that freebie in my own work. I added fun fabric to the top and machine stitching around the outside, and I really love the way those turned out. I mean, it's a quick, easy project that you can work on. It looks like I have that tag that's supposed to be for the next page, that's next week, and I wasn't liking the way it looked behind it. I may switch that up next week, we'll see. But I'm just moving it to actually the pocket that's in the second half of the signature. I hope you loved today's spread. I really enjoyed this one, and I cannot wait to see you next week. Have a good one.